The past is a great place to visit. Just be careful not to stay too long. It's a phrase I've coined in the realization of our time and mortality. If you actually could go back, but only for 1 hour, where would you go? What would you see, and why? In a world as rapidly changing as our own, nostalgia has dominated as some all-powerful and largely unexplainable force. Though this seemingly harmless feeling, a feeling that often induces a drug-like high, may be just as dangerous as the highs associated with those drugs. As a member of this sordid society, I've worked through my own theories on life, nostalgia, and the best way to navigate things, and if you've got the time it takes to watch me beat the pants off this team in Rivals, then you've got the time to hear and know how to live and navigate through the intricacies of nostalgia. Since the 1990s, technology has changed rapidly, and that's really just a short 30-year time span over the course of existence. With the average human lifespan being 72 years, a 30-year gap is a few years shy of being just half of a life. As a collector of physical media myself, I have to look no further than this physical media to fully realize the ever-changing market of these modern times. CDs are my collector's item of choice, and they reached prominence in 1985, and by 2012, the CDs were irrelevant. That's not even a 30-year lifespan. That's the equivalent of someone dying at the age of 27, which in the music world is a phenomenon all of its own. Now, 2012 is just when CDs lost the sales war to digital downloads and streaming services, but the downfall in sales for CDs really started in 2003, and that's only 18 years since its rise to prominence in pop culture. What's perhaps even more scary than that is that digital music downloads, which had replaced CDs in 2012, rose to prominence in 2003, but fell to streaming platforms in 2013. CDs may have had a short lifespan at 27 years, but digital downloads, its spiritual successor, had an even shorter lifespan of just 10 years. That's a testament to the rapid changes in our technology, and how those changes shape our concepts of time. Take books, for example. Novels have been around for over thousands of years, and that's a pretty basic form of entertainment. But more modern forms of entertainment cannot stand the test of time for longer than a couple of decades. It is this rapid changing of our technology and our forms of entertainment and culture that ultimately make it feel as though our time is speeding by on a treadmill. And this is all a testament to the rapid changes in our technology and how those changes shape our concept of time and the passage of time itself. And I say all that to say that with these rapid changes in time and technology, looking back at 10 years is going to feel a lot further away than it ever has before, simply because of how much things have changed since then. 10 years from now brings back the relevance of CDs, but if you go back to the 1800s, 10 years from the nearest date, and people are still reading books, farming, and living in the local village. So it's safe to say the more you do in a year, the longer that year will feel. Another key example of this from my personal life is my time from May of 2022 to May of 2023. Anyone who's been around my channel knows the strange allure that Evil Dead the game has on my modern friends group, but that plays a key point in understanding nostalgia and the speed of time. Evil Dead the game came out May of 2022. At the time, I was still the supervisor of the warehouse and working evenings. By May of 2023, I'd moved up 3 positions, I was on the day shift instead of the night shift, and I had worked through 3 brand new positions among 3 different facilities, along with numerous changes in my personal life. Looking back at that year always feels like it was centuries ago because of the amount of changes I went through in those 365 days. In turn, the friends I made at that time feel as though they've been in my life for much longer than just a couple of years, and that is again because they've been there throughout all of those changes. Time and technology is no different in that regards. Being born in 1995, I saw and recognized the rise of digital downloads in 2003. I experienced the crash of CDs in 2012 and the takeover of streaming in 2013. I graduated high school in 2013. In the time it took me to go through the public school system, I'd witnessed the downfall of an established music media, the startup and subsequent downfall of its replacement, and the rise of what replaced that replacement. Looking back at 2003 and 2013 felt like forever ago because of the rapid changes in technology and culture, not just because it had been 10 years, which realistically is barely a fraction of the average human experience. Living in the moment is honestly an irritating phrase for me. It used to send me up the wall and give me the baddest case of the ick. But despite its cringe and despite its ick, it is right. Though I've chosen to restructure the phrase in a way that at least makes me feel less cringy and awful, the beef I have with the idea of living its life to its fullest or living every day like it's your last, as some other people would say, is the problem that in this modern world, doing just that isn't really possible. Now granted, everybody's idea of a perfect life or even a perfect day is different. Our specific definitions of those things change as our lives change as well. Right now, a perfect day for me is sitting at home, sipping on some lemonade while listening to some banger CDs on my stereo. I couldn't obviously spend every day doing that, as I'd eventually run out of lemonade. And then of course there's a problem with my electric bill not being paid, and so I wouldn't be able to hear my music anymore, and eventually I gotta feed myself at some point in time, I suppose. If I knew for a fact that I was facing my last day, or my final days, I wouldn't spend that time on someone else's time, working. That's the last thing I'd want to do. And it's not out of some hatred for my job, but out of respect for myself. Someone very close to me in life is going through that right now, and to face that choice for real is unfathomable for me in my current situation. On one hand, you face the freedom of living out your life before it exhausts itself, while on the other hand, you face sticking with the stability that you hope becomes normal again. The power of hope is comparable to that of nostalgia, but the dichotomy here is that the more desirable option on the surface, the quitting your job and enjoying life option, practically kills all of your hope. And at that point, you've accepted your fate. You've fundamentally stopped living. You've given up. The other option had you clinging to this dead-end job and existence that you probably don't like, but you've still got your hope, and you've still got everything you've built for yourself. And your hope, along with your hopes that things will turn around, and your hope that doing all of this will just feel normal again. There's obviously no right choice here, and none of us ever want to face that choice. But it's a choice that is not too far from reality for so many of us. It's really just one diagnosis away, in fact. Though I am going off the deep end here a little bit, I am after all supposed to be telling you about how I restructured the phrase living each day like it's your last in a way that feels more genuine and more plausible than the other, and more doable in this modern life. And I'm also eventually needing to bring this whole point back to nostalgia. Bear with me here because we're getting around to all of that. But as for the phrase, it's really just this simple to me. You'll only be this young once. A simple 6-letter phrase with more layers on it than a loaded pan of lasagna. And it's true in every sense of its meaning. You'll only be this young once. We cannot get our youth back. Sad as it may seem, your youth is fleeting by the second, honestly. We spend so much time in the past, yearning for something or somewhere you'll never be again, when you could be being here, somewhere, right now. All the time you spend now in the past is time you wasted in the present. You might be 30 now, looking back at your teen years, looking back at your 20s, looking back at whatever it is you're looking back at. But eventually, you'll be 40, looking back at your 30s and how you wasted those years looking back at your 20s. And then, now you're 50, reminiscing about how you spent all of your 40s looking back at your 30s, which were spent looking back at your 20s. I could keep this going all night, but I hope I've made my point by now. The past is a great place to visit, but be careful not to stay for too long. You'll be this young once. These two phrases are my guiding principles in life, and principles that I feel have guided me quite well through it. I honestly love nostalgia. I love it just as much as the next guy, but I keep it in check. We all know those people who peaked in high school. Those 30-somethings still clinging to a football championship from when the acne was still caked on their face. The unfit slobs who still bring up being crowned the prom queen some 20 years ago. We all know these people, and they're universally frowned upon. So then why do they exist? If everybody recognizes that that's not a healthy place to be, then how do they still wind up there? They exist because of that drug-like allure of nostalgia. They were sucked in and convinced themselves that life isn't getting any better than what they had then. And that's just wrong. That's like the nostalgia equivalent of an overdose. And until you come to your realization that that way of thinking is bad for you, then you'll be stuck in that nostalgic drug. This video was partially brought on by another video essay on nostalgia. In that video, the host shares a home movie of a family vacation, a movie where his dad reflects on the horrors of just having turned 40. A horror from a video 20 years old that the narrator is now reflecting on some 20 years later. The narrator wondering about how his dad feels about hearing him say that he dreads turning 40 some 20 years ago. And it's that reflection that stalls us. That obsession with clinging to what was and somehow avoiding aging in our eventual end. That's how we fall victim to nostalgia's sweet Venus flytrap. And it hits all of us in different times. That's why midlife crises are a thing. And in this world, where the average lifespan is 72 years, the midlife crisis more properly hits around age 36 or so, which is much too scarily close for me. These urges hit us all, and at different times. It's most important that we acknowledge the good times and do our best to also make good times out of the here and now, and realizing again that you'll only be this young once. So to wrap it all up and slap a nice bow on it, nostalgia isn't some evil devil, and it's certainly not some harmless feeling either. I'd compare it more to that of a vice, honestly. Something that brings you joy, but doesn't directly harm you, but nor does it bring you any tangible benefits either. Like gaming, binging movies, or adult content, or whatever else your vices may be. Spending too much time on them, or in the past, is right up there as the same problem. And just like caffeine addictions, not enough people are talking about it either. Recognize when you're going down memory lane and find ways to pull yourself out. Go for a walk, be present in the day, get away from the old things, become consciously aware of what's happening right there in that moment. It sounds like a silly exercise, but verbally saying out loud the things you have going on in that very moment has an excellent effect on refocusing your mind and bringing you back to the present. If you haven't been around long enough to know that I'm a music nerd, then I guess you'll have heard it here first, folks. I love me some music. I collect all sorts of physical music, CDs, vinyls, cassettes, you name it, I've got it. A great reset that I've found for myself is to stop listening to older music. If I find myself stuck in a nostalgic rut, then I switch up the playlist. I put away all the vinyl and cassettes, and bust out some CDs that are no more than 5 years old. That has been an absolute killer for me in being able to refocus on the here and now. If you're interested in a similar medium, I'd really like to know if a similar action would or has had a positive effect on you. If you love games, does getting away from your older classic favorites help you stay in the here and now? If you're a movie buff, does binging more modern films help you keep present with yourself? Please let me know in the comments if this has worked for anyone else, or if you give it a try and find that it does work, because it's something that's relatively new to me, but is working wonders. Don't let changing technology dictate the pace of your time either. Be a busybody so that looking back at the year feels like a full 365 days due to all the crap that you knocked out and got done in that time. Looking back at the past 10 years will feel like a lifetime ago due to the sheer amount of societal changes at its current rate. No matter how old you are, it's gonna feel that way. Assuming, of course, you're old enough to remember 10 years gone, that is. But don't get trapped in that fabulous feeling of looking back. Buy your ticket, pay your visit, and then come back home to all of us here in the present. Remember, you'll only be this young once. 10 years from now, your older self will be reflecting on the years gone. Let those reflective memories be actual memories and not just some awful loop of you spending all of your time clinging to what was. Make today count, while still respecting yesterday. That's really the best that any of us can do. I have an animation here on YouTube, and my books are all available on Amazon. Links in the bio. If you were to check them out, I'd be forever grateful. If you're getting into my books, I suggest starting with Dusty Little Wastelanders, or anything published after that, as those feature my strongest writing yet. Now go out there and make some changes today, bud.